Well, a fine hello, lads and lasses. I'm a leprechaun, in case you didn't know. St. Patty's Day is right around the corner. And if you're not a fan, because you're daft in the head, then you can always stay home and listen to the Jacob and James On The Go podcast. Listen to Jacob and James talk about all kind of things, from movies to life, and apparently not leprechauns. And you can find their podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or any place where you might listen to a podcast. So this St. Patrick's Day, be sure to stay safe, don't drink and drive, and most importantly, have fun. And if you're not celebrating, listen to the Jacob James On The Go podcast and have fun with that too. And stay away from me Lucky Charms, or I'll shank ya. I ain't afraid of going back to prison.
Oh, hey, sweet. Some Lucky Charms. Ah, dang it. Ah, what the hell? Why'd you stab me? Jesus.
I ain't messing around. Do I look like Warwick Davis to you? I don't think so.
Everything is so cold.
They're magically delicious. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day.
Waking up, I feel so damn good. I got a boner. My On The Go show released a new episode today. Gonna listen to it with my boner. My boner.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 126, James, of the On The Go show.
All right.
I don't know if you realize that, but we are
I keep track.
a quarter of the way to 200.
Yep, I keep track sometimes.
Oh, good. I'm glad you do. Before we get started, James, how have you been? What have you been up to since we last recorded?
It's just been, you ask me this question all the time. I'm going to give you the same answer every time. So we got to work on that one.
It's formalities, man. It's like, hey, how you doing? Okay, I'll give you a better question. Have you watched anything bad, good, or interesting lately that you would like to talk about at the top?
No, not yet. But I want to start watching White Lotus. White Lotus is probably the show, and Yellow Jacket. Those two shows I want to start on.
I've heard quite a bit of about Yellow Jacket. I think friend of the show Richard watches it.
Yeah, he does. He's the one that preferred me to it.
Yeah, because it's like I think they were like stranded on an island or something, like a plane crash, and I don't know. It's like supernatural, but not quite. There's like mystery and stuff to it, from what I understand.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. That's cool. That's cool. I keep saying stuff about Severance, and
okay.
It's an Apple show, and we don't have Apple, so I'm probably not gonna watch it. But I don't know. I keep seeing like memes about it. It's like a workplace show, but the whole concept is when you go to work, you're one personality, and then when you leave work, you're another personality. Like your work life and your home life are completely separated entirely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like you go through an elevator and you become work mode, and then you go up the elevator and you become, real life mode or whatever. And I guess there's like some mystery going on. I don't know, like the work personalities are thinking something scummy's happening. I don't know. I've just seen memes about it. I just know there's an elevator and they're called innies and outies, and that's it.
I think I've seen like something before. I think I've seen something before. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, it sounds cool, but I think it's on Apple.
Yeah, it's on Apple. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have Apple, so we might have to wait for that one. Kraven the Hunter is coming out on streaming soon, so I'll finally get to watch that.
Oh, you never watched it?
No, I never got the chance to see it. I did watch like the final battle between him and Rhino, and it's kind of rough. It's
it's pretty tough.
Yeah, the CGI on it is not that great, which is upsetting for how much I went to bat for that show.
Yeah, you did. I think you did try to go to bat for Kraven, unfortunately.
I did, man. Hey, I gotta support what I support, but I guess sometimes you gotta pull the parachute.
Yeah, the fight was terrible. Everything. I hated that movie.
Damn. Well, I don't know if you saw the other day, but I had posted an audio clip. I got some on air time on the radio.
Oh yeah. I saw that.
Yeah. The show I produce up here in San Antonio, it's another news show, and every day they pose a question for the audience. Instead of having people call in, they have this thing called a talkback, which is on the app for the radio station. And so like you can pull up the app, you hit the button, and you got 30 seconds to record like a little essentially voicemail. And every day they pose a question. They're like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, let us know in the talkbacks. And then like they'll play like 3 or 4 of them once an hour or whatever. Thursday's question was, what old person habits do you have? And like as whatever age you are. Like, what old person habits are you noticing that you're falling into or whatever? And so they had asked me during the break, like, oh, what old person habits do you have? And I was like, well, I take naps after the show, and we watch, movies with subtitles, right?
That is pretty old.
Yeah, and that was during the break. And so I was like, okay, they're gonna come back, and like they might mention like they talked to me or whatever. But like, no, they threw it to me because he was like, oh, hey, our producer, oh, what did he say? He said,
Producer extraordinaire.
Do what?
Producer extraordinaire.
Yeah, right. But no, he was like, oh, I asked our producer Jacob what his old person habits are, and what did you say, Jacob? And then I had to like stumbly like pull the microphone to me because I wasn't expecting to go on air, and I had to like put up the microphone on the board. I had to turn myself on. So there's like 2 seconds of awkward silence before I can finally be like, oh, I said this and blah 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 blah. But yeah, I got a good solid minute of airtime. It was cool. It was exciting. It was truly live. So
yep, that's how it is when you're live, man.
Yeah, man, it's exciting and exhilarating. And like afterwards, I was like, I didn't swear, did I? Because we swear on the if we swear on the podcast, I just edit it out or whatever. But live, it goes out, and I have to push a button, and then the FCC gets involved. It's a whole thing.
Yep, because I definitely gonna call you.
But it was cool. It was an exciting moment, so I clipped it and I put it online just to be like, hey, look, I'm succeeding in life.
They'll probably put you on there again.
I hope so. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool to get another like minute or so of time. Just like little anecdotes. I don't know if I could do like a fully live show. I stumbled my way through this podcast. I don't know if you noticed this, but
Man, you probably could. I don't know. Who knows? You probably could pull it off.
Yeah, it just takes a certain amount of training.
True.
Practice makes perfect. You would think after 125 episodes, I'd be better at talking. But
yeah, I mean, we do kind of go through some of these episodes, so I don't know. Hopefully, we're getting the best quality out of it. We go through so many episodes a week.
Yeah,
so, we're getting there.
Every day, man. Every day it's a struggle.
Yep.
Anyway,
we're getting there.
You've got mail.
I got an email from Zach. Zach emailed us once again. This was interesting. He wants to know our thoughts on movie theaters and off the back of like The Brutalist, right? Because Brutalist comes out, it's like, what, 3.5, 4 hours long? You've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So Brutalist comes out and they announce that, hey, we're going to have an intermission in this movie because it's so damn long. You guys need a break. And you said you enjoyed the intermission. You actually really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought I was going to break up the film but it was pretty good. It stopped at a good point and picked back up at a good point. Had a little ticker in the middle of the film. Had a little picture of the family in the middle of the film, and it had a little ticker. It had 2 minutes, so you got 2 minutes to do what you need to do. Bring yourself back. So I liked it.
Yeah, and I guess it takes away the anxiety of like having to leave during the movie because you might miss something. So it's like, hey, if I make it halfway through the film, I can go pee, I can go get some popcorn or whatever, and come back and still not miss anything, right?
That's why I liked it.
Yeah. So Zach was having a conversation with his grandfather, and I think his grandfather's in the camp of, hey, let's do longer movies with intermissions. Zach thinks we should do shorter movies, and he wanted to know our opinion. So, I mean, I've said it before. I'm a fan of the shorter films. Like, I like a good hour-and-a-half movie. Let's get in, let's get out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really mind unless it's unless it's a good movie and the story needs to be told correctly. 2 hours should be pretty good enough.
Right, because I mean, how many movies truly need to be 4 hours long? I kind of blame this on the MCU because like I feel like Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame kind of set the precedence of, hey, we can make a 3 hour long film, like these blockbuster movies, and people will sit through it, right?
But it had to be.
Yeah, those had to be because they had so much to set up. But
yeah.
I mean, in the case of Avatar 2, which was 3 hours long. I mean, the first Avatar was almost 3 hours as well, but still, Avatar 2 was about 3 hours long. It's like an hour and a half of that movie was just like water, literally National Geographic, like filler.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
The question is, would an intermission have saved that movie or not? I don't think so, considering it was kind of a boring film. Visually stunning.
Was. Yeah, it was. I mean, it didn't get good. It didn't get good until the action.
You're right, and the action came at the last 30 minutes, and I don't know, the plot was kind of okay, and apparently the next one's supposed to be much better, but we'll see. We'll see on that one.
Yeah, we'll see on that one. I don't know.
And then what other long films have come out since since Avatar. There's been a few of them. Oh, Oppenheimer. That's a good example, right? Oppenheimer was about 3 hours long.
Yeah, but Oppenheimer it kind of kept my attention the entire time.
Did it?
Yeah, it kept my attention.
Okay. So, see, and okay, here's an argument. I didn't go see Oppenheimer because it was 3 hours long, just because of the length. So I don't know if an intermission would have compelled me to go see it, because it's still 3 hours long. I think I'm in the camp of shorter movies here. I think that's what I think.
I mean, some movies can be short, some movies can be long. It just depends on what the movie is and what the story is. Like the Odyssey, I'm pretty sure that Christopher Nolan film is going to probably be 3 hours long.
It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. You can't make that an hour.
Yeah, I mean, the Odyssey itself is a long story. So that would need to be long. And I could see them doing another intermission thing for that film. If Christopher Nolan was smart, he'd probably want to go that way.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's our thoughts. I'm for shorter movies. James doesn't really care as long as the movie's good.
As long as the movie's good.
As long as the movie's good, James doesn't care. I care. Yeah. Give me an hour and a half. That's all I need.
I don't need like a 2-hour movie of freaking, I don't know, a cartoon. I don't need a 2-hour movie of that. But if it's an epic, if it's an epic movie, then yeah, it has to be.
On the Go with Jacob and James.
The next thing I wanted to talk about today, James, was something I wanted to talk about last week, but we kind of ran out of time. And it's just the Avengers Doomsday like concept art, supposedly quote unquote leaked. Since it's still out there on the internet, I'm assuming Marvel just put this out themselves. A lot of people are already speculating, like, oh, they probably did this to generate interest in the movie because everyone's a little confused as to what this movie is going to be. So it's like, hey, if we put some concept stuff out there, maybe people will get excited about it. Have you had a chance to look at any of this?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at some of it. I mean, mostly the Doom stuff. We don't have to go through scene by scene of it because we don't have like a visual of it. But my thing on leak concepts are sometimes they turn out good and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it drums up interest and sometimes it doesn't. I'm pretty sure, when that Spider-Man No Way Home picture came out of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, I'm pretty sure that was peak at the time, peak leakness.
Yeah.
Because then when Doctor Strange came out and they had concept art, none of it happened like I was supposed to happen in the movie. So it kind of threw off the vibe of everything that you thought you was going to see.
Right. Well, I was going to make the same point that concept art isn't necessarily what makes the film. If you go and you go back and you find a DVD and you look at the DVD extras, they normally have like concept art in the extras. And really, it's just to be like, hey, this was our original thoughts compared to the final film. And sometimes characters look different. Sometimes there's whole scenes that are drawn out that don't make the movie. Whether or not they filmed it is a different question. So I take this concept with a grain of salt.
You have to.
Yeah, I think anybody really smart should take it with a grain of salt. I will say it does. The pictures themselves do interest me. Like, I don't know, like you get the Hulk village. You have like Doctor Doom sitting on a throne with like Doctor Strange, and it looks like Pedro Pascal's Mr. Fantastic is in chains by Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson. Mm-hmm. So some of these things are interesting, and my thought would be, again, multiverse saga. So if we're doing the multiverse stuff, Avengers Doomsday could be a version of an Earth that instead of having Thanos, they had Doom get the Infinity Stones. Like maybe this is what this is, right? It's just a different side of things. I like the concept, but I don't think that's what this movie's going to be about. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, like I said, that's what they did with Doctor Strange, and the hype for Doctor Strange was out through the roof because everyone was drawing all these conclusions and trying to finish. It's almost like finishing art on a painting that's not finished yet because you're trying to draw your own conclusions together of what you see, and it's not really going to happen that way. And I think Doctor Strange taught everybody that lesson. because in
Right.
Doctor Strange, everyone thought that, oh my God, all these people are going to show up, and none of it happened. And I think they
Right.
also tempered expectations for what you saw. So, I mean, while sometimes concept art is cool, it's best to temper expectations of what you might see because you don't know
Right.
how it could look in the end.
Right, because these are just ideas. And, I see people on the internet all the time now just, like, coming up with different theories on how Doomsday is. And it kind of reminds me of, like, before Infinity War and Endgame came out, right? Because all kinds of people were speculating on what certain scenes are going to be, and they had, like, this whole idea of, like, what the movie is. But then the movies come out, and they're not at all what fans thought they were going to be. So, and I'm seeing the same thing with the Doomsday stuff or Secret Wars. They're like, oh, this scene... when they do this scene in Secret Wars, is going to be so cool. But it's just people speculating and people like wish making, right? They're kind of just throwing it out there in the universe. And whether or not we actually get these scenes is a question.
Yeah, because you're just trying to finish an art piece, and then sometimes you just can't do it. And I understand. I get it. Everyone's excited. Everyone's excited to see these certain, but you have to temper expectations. Because once you see the movie, you're going to probably be disappointed. Or you probably might not be disappointed, but you probably will be disappointed most likely.
Again, I've said this before. I like the idea of a comic book movie that's just a comic book story brought to life. Like, I like the idea of like, hey, we just did a thing. You don't need any kind of backstory on this. Like, hey, it's Avengers Doomsday. The story of this is Doom took over the planet and the Avengers are all like slaves or captured or whatever. I like that idea. I get why most people wouldn't, because it's confusing as to like where that fits in this giant puzzle that is the MCU now. As an individual movie, this would excite me, but
yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm not holding my breath on it. I think, like I said, No Way Home spoiled everybody because No Way Home had that leak of Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, and Tobey Maguire, and at that time we all saw it. The people that pay attention to this stuff, we all saw it. I saw it, and I was like, oh snap! And I saw like little Disney, and it wasn't the concept art; it was just a leaked photo of them standing where they were standing in the movie, and that was the first time we ever seen something actually come to life. So it wasn't fake or generated, and AI wasn't even a thing back then.
Yeah,
so that was the first time we ever seen something like that. So that was pretty. That was pretty wild. That was pretty wild too. So it just depends. It just depends. It's fun to speculate and to draw. It's fun to do that, but it's also you have to temper expectations, and
speculation's half the fun, honestly. But
sometimes it's not, because I sometimes I enjoy speculation, and then sometimes I'm just like, oh man, this is because it's pretty. Sometimes it can be useless because none of it happens that way. Because everyone's trying to put together a puzzle piece that might not even be there. Everyone's trying to put that a round piece in a square hole, and it's just like stop trying to do that. I think we have a little bit more. We temper our expectations a little bit more. I know some people that don't, and they're really trying to put a round hole. They're really trying to put a circle in a square hole. A peg, and you know what I mean. Round peg and square hole. Like this one person was telling me about Daredevil, and he was just like, so this is what's gonna happen when the movie's allegedly, or he said apparently this is what's supposed to happen. Foggy and then the girl, what's her name, Jessica.
Oh yeah, there was. I think it leaked a long time ago that they were going to get killed off, and then the studio had to change that because for one, it got leaked, and then for two, a lot of people did not like hearing that. So
because allegedly the blip was supposed to pick them up and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
that had nothing to do with nothing.
No, and I think some of that just got changed, but I don't know. I still haven't watched Daredevil.
Me either. I haven't watched it. I will, but I haven't watched it. But I'm just like, that had nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah.
Because I saw one of the reviews for it, and they was like, no, there was no blip. It was good. Oh, why would that be in there? That happened so long ago.
Yeah.
To go back over that again would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that's what some of the other MCU stuff has done, was always kind of mention the blip. So I think it's just like, oh, they're probably going to mention the blip or whatever. But, and again, I think that might have been part of the original plan, because I know part of the original concept was Foggy and I can't remember the other name, Karen. I think it's Karen. Foggy and Karen.
Yeah. Okay,
they were supposed to get
Karen.
Yeah, they were supposed to get killed off. But when that leaked, a lot of people didn't like that. There was kind of some outrage. And so I think they went in and they quickly changed that story plot because they're like, oh, people didn't like this.
So let me ask you this: then. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where people will stop paying attention to leaks?
No, people will always like look at the leaks. That's why they work, right? Like things get leaked all the time, and I think certain companies leak things on purpose. In the case of the MCU right now with the Doomsday stuff, I think that was an on purpose leak, and I agree with that one person who mentioned like, oh, this is just to get people excited or kind of answer questions without answering questions. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like what's this Doomsday going to be about? Like, oh no, our concept art leaked. This is kind of embarrassing for us. But truly, it's like, no, we put it out there ourselves. You know, I harkens back to Ryan Reynolds being behind the original Deadpool concept trailer. Remember when that happened and that blew up?
I think I remember that.
Yeah, that sparked Deadpool finally being made. Because I think that leaked in like 2014, and then 2 years later we get a Deadpool movie. Because everyone saw that trailer and they're like, holy crap, like, you guys didn't make this? And so I think that had the butterfly effect of, oh, leaks work to our advantage. So if every now and then we have an oopsie and we accidentally like let something out, it's a good way to gauge like where the audience is at for certain ideas or themes or whatever we have going on. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's the older I get, the more and more I'm less excited about leaks, and I'm just like, how many times have we had this happen?
Well, I mean, it's always until you see a trailer and a poster, you can't believe anything. You know what I mean? I said that for years about Avatar 2. For years, they're like, oh, Avatar 2 is coming next year. Like, all right, well, when I see a trailer and a poster, I'll believe it. And then finally, it did come out. So,
yeah, I don't know. We will see, but I'm trying my best. Hopefully, we don't get any more leaks and stuff like that. And if it's so, I'm gonna try my best not to talk about it as much. I'm kind of getting tired of it. It's getting old. Well, what's the point? None of this is gonna happen like you think it's gonna happen. None of it. And you're really stressing yourself over how this is supposed to be. And it's like, you just wait till the trailer comes out so you can truly enjoy it. Wait till the painting is truly done. And you can wait for it to dry, and then you can enjoy it. It's better that way. Can you imagine if Endgame ended? Can you imagine if everybody found out how Endgame was going to be?
Nobody would really like it. They'd be like, I expected this.
Oh man, well, I give Marvel kudos. They kept that bad boy on the lock and key because no one knew how that was going to happen. No one knew. Like, and that was one of the best things in cinema. That was one of the funnest scenes enjoyed by everybody.
That's true. But see, Marvel's not in the same place right now. They need to rejuvenate their audience. And so I think that's partly what this was. It was like, hey, let's put some concept art out there, kind of re-engage people, see where the excitement level's at, see if this gels well with our audience. And it's just concept. It's not what we have going on right now. So if we'll pay attention to the conversation, and if there's no excitement about it, or if there's pushback on it, we'll make some changes.
But here's the deal, though: what if there is excitement for it, and the movie comes out, and you totally don't get any of that, not even a little bit of a concept art, and it's like a totally different film. It ends up being like Doctor Strange.
Well, that's a mistake on their part. Yeah.
So it's like you're taking a hell of a risk doing something like that.
We'll see.
Hell of a risk.
But I mean, also like these are concept pieces, but like not all that. Like 7 pieces of art don't make the whole movie. You know what I mean? You can't write a 3-hour movie off of like the 7 pieces of art we've seen. It's like, okay, cool. Like Doctor Doom has some Avengers enslaved. That could be the setting up part of the movie. You know what I mean? That's not the whole movie. That could just be like a setup. I think the most believable thing in this is Chris Pratt, Star-Lord, hanging out with like the young Avengers for whatever reason, because that seems like some goofy stuff Marvel would do. Like, oh, Star-Lord's on Earth. What are we gonna have him do? Have him babysit the sidekicks, I guess. Like, I don't know.
Ain't too much more for him to do. The Guardians of the Galaxy is done.
Yeah, he's got nothing else to do, so it's like, all right, cool. We'll have him babysit the young Avengers. Him hanging out with White Vision is the biggest like question mark for me, because like White Vision, you've done nothing with this guy since WandaVision.
Yep, exactly.
My name is Dick Righteous, and I'm here to take you on the wonderful journey through freedom, justice, in the good old American way. Like a hamburger with fries.
So I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago, CW was gonna make a live-action Powerpuff Girls TV series. Did you ever hear about this? Do you know about this?
I think I heard about it. Yeah.
They were working on it. They were just about to release it, and then the plot for the the whole script for the pilot episode got leaked, and people were not having it because they did this thing where it's like it's the Powerpuff Girls, but it's like 10 years later, and like Bubbles is an alcoholic, Blossom's got depression because she killed one of the villains, Buttercup is like a lesbian or whatever, and so people were just like, "What did you do, sweet innocent child?" Did you ever watch the Powerpuff Girls?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, Powerpuff Girls. I grew up with it, and it was a fun show. They just beat up villains. You know, every episode you had a bunch of wild cartoony villains. You had like a devil lobster hermaphrodite person. You had a redneck fuzzy lumpkins. You had the Green Gang, which was like a bunch of green people. I mean, you had all kinds of different kind of characters, and it had good humor, good classic Cartoon Network humor from like the early 90s and 2000s, or late 90s, early 2000s, that kind of time period. The trailer leaked the other day because this was a true leak. Because let me tell you, Warner Brothers acted fast to take this trailer down.
Yes, they should have.
Yeah, I heard about the leak, and I went to go find it, and like every website that talked about it just took it down, yanked it down. The only thing I could find was YouTubers reviewing it, and all the YouTubers were like grown men, and I'm just like, I don't want to watch you guys talk
I
about
really don't. I think I tried to watch it too, and I was like, I don't want to see a bunch of guys, incel dudes talking about Powerpuff Girls. I'm good on that.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't even know if I want to talk about it on the show, but also I don't know, it's a topic, and I watched the trailer. I finally found the trailer, and I watched it, and it's bad. It's CW bad. I don't know. CW in general, I feel like their production value has kind of gone down.
It went completely down. This went completely down.
Yeah, and like this one's real bad because like, I mean, the green screen is very obvious. Just the effects, horrible. And this was supposed to be the final product. This wasn't like, hey, we just started doing this. You know, it wasn't like, hey, it's the first trailer of a movie where it's like, okay, they're still fixing some things. Like, no, this was going to be the final product. And I'm like, it just looked bad in general. But the overall premise, not terrible. It could have used some tweaks, right? Like, okay, I get the concept, like, all right, we're gonna do a thing where like they're adults and they're struggling with being superheroes when they were kids. Like, that's not a bad story. But then it's just like the other tweaks and other things they did with the characters themselves. I'm like, yeah, I can see why this was a bad idea. Like, you made Mojo Jojo two people. They were like a father and a son, and Blossom kills the dad, and the son becomes the mayor, and he decides he wants to get back at the Powerpuff Girls or whatever. Like, that's kind of like the story of what the show would have been. I think it would have been more fun if he would have just had like the classic villains come back. Okay, so it kind of reminded me of The Boys, and this is my problem with The Boys. The Boys, it was a good show when it first came out because at a time when we had all these like superhero media, and we still have a lot of superhero media, but at a time when you're having all the superhero media around, but then like The Boys comes through and it's like a breath of fresh air because it's like, yeah, they're superheroes, but they're kind of terrible, right? You're like, oh, fresh new concept, this is exciting, and blah blah blah. And then a couple years, like by season 3, it just kind of becomes like the shock and awe show where it's like, all right, well, whose head's gonna explode in this episode? Like, who's getting a limb cut off? Like, the grotesque gore just kind of gets old. And then season 4 was like heavily like a political parody, which is like, I'm already hearing about politics on a daily basis because it's an election year. The last thing I want to do is watch this show about more political parody of what's going on in real life, but real life feels like a parody. So this doesn't help me forget. This isn't the escapist media I want, you know?
Yeah, no, you're right.
My point being, I think The Boys sparked, you know, like, hey, people like, when the superheroes are bad, because we had some other shows come out that are kind of like The Boys-esque, or I think there's a Japanese comic book that is now an anime that's basically the Power Rangers, but The Boys. It's like, oh, what if the Power Rangers were around, but they were actually secretly the bad guys? Yeah, I'm like, okay, it's kind of a fun thing, but also it's the boys.
Yeah,
It's the
still the
same
boy.
concept of the boys. Yeah. So the Powerpuff Girls, this kind of felt like they were trying to do that a little bit, where it's like, oh, it's the Powerpuff Girls, but they're real life people, and they also have issues. Like, why do I want to? Why do I want to watch superheroes struggle with alcoholism? Like, why can't I just watch superheroes?
But I especially don't want to see three little girls that everybody
Right.
grew up with and turn into these, turn into having life problems.
Yeah, and now they're adults, and it's like now they're struggling with eating disorders and alcoholism, and you're like,
I'm good.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, I can see why this really just failed, and this was a good example. We were just talking about leaks. We were talking about leaks with the MCU. This was a good example of a leak that really just halted the process of like, oh, this is going to be bad if we release this. Let's not do this.
Oh, yeah.
The flip side of this is I don't think CW planned to leak that first pilot script. I think that just got leaked. Like, they got hacked and people found out about it.
Yeah.
But this really saved them from a total embarrassment.
Yeah, they're definitely lucky.
It's interesting, though, because the trailer got back the original narrator, Tom Kenny, to narrate the show. So that was a nice little like callback to the original show. And they make a comment about like, oh, they had merch and TV shows, and it was kind of like meta or whatever. The professor was Turk from the Scrubs.
Oof.
Which is like, maybe it's a good thing that didn't come out, because
it sounds like this thing was a mess, man. It's like this show was a complete mess. No matter how much you tweaked it, it was gonna be a complete mess. It sounds awful. It's not even like anti-woke. It's just not even little girls would have liked this.
Well, it's not. Yeah, it wasn't meant for little girls. It was meant for the kids who grew up with it.
And see,
we got to stop doing that.
You got to stop doing it. You got to stop doing it. And that's my biggest problem with a lot of these stuff now. You're trying to cater so much to nostalgia is you end up making garbage like this.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're grown ass people now.
Yeah, it's like let's get away from nostalgia. Let's make a good story. Make a good product, and we'll enjoy it. Stop trying to hit on, hey, remember this from childhood?
I look at 2 YouTube channels, and they have like a time capsule. But it's basically like a time capsule, and they have like a whole bunch of stuff from 1990s and the 80s. What was it like going to the mall? What was it like going to movie theaters? What was it like going to McDonald's?
That's nostalgia.
That's my nostalgia. I'm good.
That's what you get. Yeah.
I'm good. I watch those all the time. It was cool to see that somebody actually archived them and put them on YouTube. I wish I would have been old enough to even thought about doing something like that. Can you imagine me and you being the ages that we are now?
Yeah.
Putting things in a time capsule.
We had a video camera. Yeah.
On a video camera, you and me going to Burger King in 1995. You know how cool that would have been?
Yeah, it would have been. Considering Burger Kings don't even look like Burger Kings from 1995.
Exactly. You know how cool that is, man. Like, so I think that's so cool. I watch so much stuff like that all the time. But that's as far as I go. I'm not sitting up here wishing and hoping to return my childhood. That's just not going to happen.
You like nostalgia from life. That's what's happening, right? You like nostalgia from life in general. Like, oh, that's what a mall used to look like. That's what Burger King used to look like. That's what this used to be. And it's cool that you get to watch a channel that still has that footage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nostalgia in movies, it's kind of pointless, because if you and I were like, hey, I really miss the Powerpuff Girls. The Powerpuff Girls is out. We can buy the DVDs. Like, I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. Like, we could just go watch the original series. We don't need creators to come in and make a new series or update the series. Like, if we're feeling nostalgic for Powerpuff Girls or Dexter's Lab or Johnny Bravo or whatever other show we had in childhood, we can go find that somewhere.
So
you know what
Max,
I mean?
Man. HBO Max.
We can go pull it up. Like, we don't need somebody to come in and be like, hey, remember the show you like from childhood? What if we made them adults and we gave them real life problems? I'm an adult and I have real life problems. I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch the 3 little girls that I grew up with, sugar and spice and everything nice. And,
I don't want to see them suffering an eating disorder and.
No, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Blossom and oh no, and Bubbles.
Yeah,
come on, man.
Yeah. So I get your take on nostalgia. There was a small pocket of time where it did work, and now it's not working as much. And the Powerpuff Girls was a big example of like, oh, this was this was doomed. This was a bad idea, and it's a good thing this didn't get released. But
we've seen it now with Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters came out the last one came out last year, and that movie was totally dog crap. That Frozen Empire came out last year.
But you know what's funny is Afterlife did phenomenal because Afterlife continued the story, and it wasn't trying to hit on nostalgia as much, right? It was trying to build off like the legacy.
Yep.
Frozen Empire went back to nostalgia. It went back to like, hey, we got Dan Aykroyd back, we got Bill Murray back, we got the guy who plays Winston. What's his name?
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson. We got Ernie Hudson in here. Like we're bringing back all these classic characters and
like, oh man,
back in New York.
Yeah, we're back in New York. Remember the library? Remember the lion? Remember come on, man.
Yeah, and then it was too much. It's like, guys, you had a great concept with just like, yeah, we're somewhere in the Midwest and there's ghosts out here and they're still connected to the original Ghostbusters, but they're still new characters, right? It's like, yeah, it's Egon's grandkids that discover this stuff.
If they wanted to go to a new city, how come you didn't go to Los Angeles or Chicago?
Los Angeles, yeah, or anywhere. Anywhere would have been better than, hey, we brought it back to New York, and also there's this ghost squirrel, and there's this guy who's a descendant of this like firebender.
Oh God! So it's just, man, nostalgia is really, really starting to be kind of bad, man. It's starting to kick our butt.
It worked for a little bit. There was a piece of time where it's like it really worked great.
Yeah.
And now it's just not. It's not hidden.
No, it's not at all.
That's the entertainment industry, man. Things work until they don't, you know?
And, Hollywood, they're going to keep bleeding it dry until they don't, until it's done. They're going to keep milking it until you say you don't want it no more.
No, especially, yeah. That's just how Hollywood is. And then, you have these original concepts that try to come out, and unfortunately, like, they're not doing so well because they're from smaller companies, or they don't have the big name actor. At the same time, people are getting tired of seeing big name actors and things where it's like, oh, they got The Rock in this movie. Great. But then it's like, well, you have all these other really original ideas out there if you want to go watch those. No, I'm going to go watch the next movie with The Rock. But you just said you're tired of The Rock. Yeah, but this movie looks good. What are we doing?
Sometimes people just want to complain, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. That's all I had for you today.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right. Well, shorter episode this week. Hope everybody doesn't mind. If you'd like to email us, you can email us at onthegopod2023@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about Powerpuff Girls. Let us know what you think about the concept art leak. Ask us a question like Zach does, or give us topic ideas. Just a game to play or whatever you want us to talk about. You can find us on Instagram, On The Go with Jacob and James. You can find us on Facebook, On The Go with Jacob and James. You can find us on YouTube as well. Like, subscribe, share us with your friends. Do all the things you need to do to keep us in your life. If you want to follow us individually, you can follow me at jacobdantone.audio, and you can follow James at
James9794.
And without further ado, I am on the go, James is on the go, and we are all on the go.